People ask you, how are you feeling? And you say, I'm good, or I'm fine. But actually, when you really think about how you're feeling, you often don't know. You feel numb, you feel empty, you really can't pinpoint what you're feeling. Hi, I'm Rossanne, and in this 3-part mini-series we are going to explore the feeling of numbness. So in part 1, we are going to look at the 9 dangers of prolonged numbness. In part 2, we're going to have a look at why you might feel numb, what is at the root cause of it, how long you've been carrying this feeling of numbness in your life. And in part 3, we'll look at ways which you can overcome your feeling of numbness and actually heal it and start to feel again. Now, part 1 is really important because that will help you to identify why you actually want to heal this feeling of numbness. And in part 2, it'll actually help you to identify when it's going to occur so that you can catch it out and break the pattern. And then in part 3, we'll actually do some permanent reprogramming of your mind so that it doesn't have to keep coming up for you, and you can learn a tool that you can go away and practice so that you can actually recreate your mindset. I'm Rossanne Clay. Welcome to part 1 of understanding this feeling of numbness and being able to heal it. So in part 1, like I said, we're going to address the 9 dangers of numbness. Now, to understand what these dangers are, I want to give you a little bit of an analogy about what numbness is actually doing to you in your life. So, why does numbness occur? At a very brief level, I just want to say it occurs when you are feeling intensely anxious or intensely stressed. You want to suppress that feeling of anxiety or that feeling of stress, so it's like you turn the volume down on your emotions. So if you imagine a little baby has 100% experience of their emotions. When they're happy, they're laughing and joyous, and when they're sad, they're crying. For you, you've reached a point where you've turned the volume down to say 30% on your emotions so that you don't have to feel them. So that means you don't have to feel the anxiety or the stress as intensely as you would if you were that little baby. I want you to think of this analogy. So my kids love to watch this program called Crystal Gems. No, I think it's called Steven Universe. And in Steven Universe, they have all these crystal gems, and these crystal gems can come together and they can fuse, and in fusing, they make a new crystal gem. There's this scene in Steven Universe where there's Jasper, this very angry, heavy, dominating crystal gem that basically wants to control the other crystal gems and send them back to kind of a prison type thing. Then there's another crystal gem called Lapis, and Lapis is very emotional. She wants to be free of all this fighting and so forth. Now in this scene, what you can see here is that Lapis has just had this heavy block thrown on her. So she's trying to escape from it. And that's how you are with your emotions. You're constantly being hurt, and there's a lot of pain there, and you're being squashed by it. And notice here, she's trying to escape Jasper and fly away, because she doesn't want to feel this pain. But of course Jasper, all this pain and all this anger, grabs hold of her and brings her down. And then Jasper offers to her the option of fusing, so merging together. Now, normally a fusion happens in a very joyous space, and it creates a very wonderful crystal gem, a new, bright, beautiful crystal gem. But in this instance, Jasper is angry and wants vengeance, and Lapis is angry. So she says, yep, I'm going to fuse with you. They fuse together, and the fusion happens in a state of hatred, anger, frustration, desperation, and so it creates a very ugly monster. And then in that instance, they don't truly merge as one. What happens is one of them is always in control. So in this instance, Lapis is using all her energy, all her strength to control this new monster. So her personality comes out, and what she decides to do is drag this monster down to the bottom of the ocean. Now this analogy I'm giving you is what you're doing with your numbness. You have this pain, and you're choosing to merge and fuse with this pain. Your expanded self has decided to merge with this pain and drag it under and try and hide it at the bottom of the ocean, hoping that no one will see it, hoping that you, sorry for all the noise, hoping that you will not even notice it, you yourself And that's how you suppress the pain. And then you hope that Jasper never comes up and never sees sunlight again. Now in this picture, what you see is the monster is now controlled by Jasper, because Lapis has lost all her energy. She's used up so much of her energy on trying to control this monster and trying to keep it at the bottom of the ocean. Jasper has now taken control, and Jasper has now surfaced and is ready to fight. Okay, I will get to how this relates. So now that you have that understanding of how numbness is impacting your life, I want to explain the dangers of numbness. So there are two top dangers, and those two dangers lead to the remaining 7. Okay, and the remaining 7 can be completely detrimental and really just ruin your life. The first danger of experiencing numbness, prolonged numbness, is your lack of connectivity. When you are not feeling, and you're not being able to tune into your feelings and what you're going through, you can't tune into what other people are going through, and so you lose connectivity with them, you lose affinity with them. They feel like you're pushing them away and like you're resisting them, and of course that has huge repercussions on your relationship with your lover, your relationship with your children, and with your relationship with your friends. So you can imagine the family dynamic. You're like a robot. You're doing and saying all the right things because you know what you're meant to be doing and saying. Oh, sweetie, that's lovely. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad for you. But you really don't connect with them. Okay, so that is significant. That is the biggest problem with going numb. Now, number 2, the biggest danger with going numb, is your lack of intuition. Your intuition relies on you feeling. Because in feeling, your intuition is letting you know where to turn. So when you're feeling depressed, angry, sad, upset, then your intuition is saying to you, don't go there. You know, this is not what we want. And then when you're feeling joyous and happy and excited, your intuition is saying, this is good, go here, this is what we want. Now when you're suppressing all those emotions and you're feeling numb, what tends to happen is you're no longer tuning in to your intuition. You're not able to get in tune with that, right? So you're logically making decisions, which doesn't mean they're actually the best decisions for you. A lot of times what makes logical sense isn't actually what's best for you. Most of the time, when you're in a great state of mind, you're living your life actually through intuition. And then you're deciding on something because of your intuition, and then you're justifying it with logical reasons to say, oh yeah, I should be doing this because of blah, blah, blah. Now, those two are the 2 biggest danger points in creating prolonged numbness. What follows on, the remaining 7, are dangers because of your loss of the first 2, okay? And I'm going to go through them now. So, number 3 is your judgment of people. When you turn down your volume on your emotions, so you're now operating, let's say 10%, 20%, 30% of your emotions, and you don't want to feel any intensity above that, right? So remember, a baby is operating at 100% of their emotions. They're like fully in tune with their joy, their sadness, their anger, everything. And you're like really numb. Then what happens is when you see people in your life, you know, their volume is turned up to 70% or is even turned up to 90%, then you start to judge those people. So you look at all those happy people and you're like, they're living in fairyland. They really don't know what life is like. They really don't understand. You know, they're living in a bubble. And you criticize them as not being in touch with reality, not understanding what the real world is doing. And then you look at these people that are feeling the pain and the sadness or the sorrow or the depression at 70% volume, and you judge them as being weak and wimpy and pathetic and can't they toughen up? Like, really? Life is not that bad. And when you judge people, obviously then you start isolating yourself because you don't want to hang around these people. They're too much for you. They're too intense and you can't deal with that. You've learned to suppress, turn down that volume and make sure you don't feel those emotions. Okay, so that's the 3rd danger. The 4th danger is because your intuition is, well, it's always working, but you're not able to tune into your intuition, then you start to create dysfunctional methods of coping. In other words, your moral compass gets skewed, because now you don't have the clarity to guide you. You don't have your intuition guiding you as to what is better for you and what is better for you and others versus what is just going to give you a quick fix. Okay, so that moral compass dilemma can create huge problems where you end up seeking out experiences that you actually didn't really want to seek out, and you end up causing pain that you never wanted to cause. Number 5 is that because of this moral dilemma, it can end up creating addictions. Because your intuition is you're dialing into your intuition is faulty, you're not able to work out what's actually healthier for you versus what's not. So you might start to drink, you might start to have a lot of sugar, smoke, gamble, have a lot of sex. You might start creating addictive tendencies to compensate for the pain that you're feeling and to try and keep that pain suppressed. All these toxins, they impact your body, the hormones that get released impact your body such that it numbs the pain and it keeps it suppressed. They're all just coping mechanisms. No one addiction is more right or wrong than the other. Some are legal and some are not, right? And so I'm not trying to judge you or anything, but I want you to be wary that the path of numbness can create a lot of pain. All right, number 6 is your physical illness. To turn down the volume, you are acting like lapis. You're fusing with that anger, with that pain, with all of that negative energy, and you're creating a horrible monster, and then you're dragging it down to the bottom of the ocean, and you're holding it down there, and you're suppressing it there, hoping that no one else notices, but most of all you're hoping that you don't notice. And that takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment, a lot of focus, and it's all happening subconsciously in the background. But for your body and your mind to be able to create that, it requires so much energy that it will deplete other areas of your life. And in depleting other areas of your life, it will impact your physical health. So you might start noticing illnesses. In fact, you might start noticing chronic pain in areas of your body. And you'll blame it on things like, oh, it's age, or it's because I did that exercise, or it's because I did this when I was young, oh, it's because it's actually this numbness, this pain that you're suppressing. It's costing you so much. And this is number 7. It might also create exhaustion, where you feeling depleted often, and you're running out of energy, and you're feeling like, how do people have time for this? How do people have the energy for this? I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired. This really drains me. Life seems to drain you, and it's actually not supposed to be that way. So number 8 of the dangers is because your energy is so depleted, you lose concentration, you lose focus. And it means that, again, it impacts your decision making. You will reach for sugar, you will reach for the drugs, you will reach for whatever else is going to just help you to numb the pain and get by, rather than having the focus and the clarity to make conscious decisions that are healthy for you, that are beneficial for you. And that's a huge one, right? And that again is impacted by it because you've lost that sense of intuition. The 9th one is a very dire one, and I hope that you guys don't reach that point, but it's a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, utter depression, lethargy. It's basically where you decide it's not even worth existing. Okay, that's the 9th danger. And that is actually more common than you think. People fluctuate in and out of that because all this stuff is happening. Now, if you think about all those 9 dangers that are happening in your life right now, how many have you actually got going on? And sometimes do you notice you start veering towards what is the point versus being able to make clear decisions about your life and seeing what the point is? Okay, that's some really heavy stuff, right? That's very, very heavy stuff. And I'm sorry to take you down that path, but I really need you to see with clarity why it's so important for you to release this feeling of numbness. All right, so thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time being with me in this. And I really hope that you'll stick with me and listen to part 2 of this mini series, because in part 2 you will get some deep understanding as to why you created this feeling of numbness in your first place. And I know you're saying to me, I didn't create it, it's just there. And we'll learn why you actually did create it. Thank you so much for joining me now.